feeling today, everybody? Episode number 4. So we've talked about making the jig. We've talked about some parts. We've talked about mounting the car. We've talked a whole lot so far. So today what I want to talk about, and I'll probably show you little clips of stuff, is some of the bracing I've done. I've got some more of the car cut out. And then I also want to show you guys what my plan is for the chassis, the tube chassis, and the roll cage. You know, it really is a tube chassis that this is going to be a Civic body on with a stock style front end. So I want to talk about that. And where I want to start is the floor. So what we've got from the trunk well, which is semi-permanently cut. I don't think I'm really going to change much back here. So I got this whole lower portion cut here. From there, all the way forward to the firewall. Now, basically from the trunk to the firewall is all just a very rough cut. Just used a Sawzall and kind of buzzed through to get the majority of stuff out of my way. I took some rough measurements of the transmission, the width here, and then the height. Just kind of a rough, quick tape measurement to get me close. And then what I'll do is I'll get the engine and trans sitting in here and mark it, cut it, lift it, mark it, cut it, lift it, and get me a nice, probably 2-3 inches all the way around. All right. Then all this stuff here, there's body seam filler, and under that body filler is going to be a bunch of metal like this. And there's little spot welds in all this metal. See if it'll focus. You can see the little circle right there and a little circle right there. And those are spot welds. And if you grind all the spot welds out, this chunk of metal would just come off. So the plan is that all this stuff here is just held in by spot welds up underneath this body filler. So if I take the body filler off with a really stout wire wheel, I should be able to get to those spot welds and then basically grind them, drill them, and then work all this metal off. And then that will just leave me a clean assembled rocker with no metal here. And then this rocker is what I'll work off of. And same thing back here. This whole piece right here, same deal. You'll see some of the metal flange in here, the metal flange in here, all this stuff, same deal. I'll just keep drilling and grinding the spot welds. This outer piece here, I'll probably remove. I believe there's an inner skin on the inside. If not, I will probably just have to make a cut and weld some pieces back in, because I want to relatively leave like the outer layer intact. And I just kind of think that it might, once it's painted real nice and glossy, I think it will give the car some resemblement of what it used to be. So inside will be these, flat panels and double frame rails, deal with nice panels in it, and it'll look like nothing but a race car, funny car cage in the seats. But you'll see all this sheet metal with, glossy paint on it, and it'll look nice and clean. And I think that it will tell us, hey, this thing used to be a full steel body car. So I think that's how I'm going to leave it. Now, wheel wells, same deal. This whole rear structure piece, I have to cut all the spot welds, all the little individual welds out and get that out of there. And then back here, I'm probably going to cut. So the rear trunk area, I kind of stopped right here. And what I was thinking is I'm probably going to follow this line, maybe up and around, maybe kind of tight right here, all the way across. All right, so this will probably just kind of follow this little body line right there. You want to leave some of this kind of stuff in there. That really helps panel rigidity. So leaving this little curve section in here will help keep this panel stable. So I'll probably end up doing that. Just kind of curve it up to that line. The wheel wells are going to be tricky because the tire's so big, the factory axle center line's here. My new axle center line will probably be 2 to 3 inches back. And so what I'll end up doing is kind of finding the vertical tangent of the wheel well and kind of drawing a straight line, probably 4 or 5 inches this way, and then redoing the whole curve. So basically making it, instead of a round wheel well, an oval wheel well. And I think that will still look okay, but also give me enough room to get the tire in there and make the tire look center. I may add some body filler in this area to kind of, because there's kind of like a body line in this wheel well here. So I may have to kind of reshape that. I don't really know. I'll probably end up just cutting it, seeing how it looks. It is a race car, so if it's not perfect, but it looks good, I may leave it. I'm really kind of torn what to do there. I'll probably cut first and ask questions later and correct it if it needs to be corrected. So that's kind of the plan for the metal that's left on the car. Get all these pinch welds cut out, clean up all this sheet metal along the bottom, get rid of the deck lid, take the glass out. And then really at that point, it's just about getting rolling on getting the axle in there, getting the tires in place, shortening the axle. And then once I got that, I'll get my number 1 bar in. By then, hopefully I'll have a seat so that I can kind of figure out where the seat needs to be, how wide the seat's going to be, stuff like that. The engine hopefully will kind of be sitting in a rough place. As for the chassis, this is going to be an SFI 25.2 chassis. And I got the book here. And I think what I'm going to do is, where the main hoop is forward of the driver helmet, I think that's going to look the best. And I think that's going to work the best for the situation I got going on. And because the driver's seat has to be so far back, I think for safety and for getting in and out of the car, that's going to be the easiest route. And just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, I'll show you kind of the book here, what it looks like. So what you see is this funny car cage is completely behind the main hoop. Now, most of your 25.2 chassis, or really any funny car cage, looks something like this, where the main hoop is very vertical, very upright, and then the funny car cage is forward. So you kind of sit in this driver's compartment in here. The main hoop is at the back of your head. Now, I think there's some imagery that shows helmets, or this vertical will kind of show you too. So this is like your typical funny car cage. The main hoop's very vertical, and you sit in this compartment here. What I think I'm going to do is this, where I actually sit behind the main hoop, and then the funny car cage is going to be behind me. So what that's going to kind of look like, I'm going to do the main hoop on a little bit of an angle. I'll try and get you, let's see, we'll do this angle here. All right, so my number 1 bar, this white, really white section of the rocker panel right here, and number 1 bar will be kind of right in that area. All right, so the seat itself is going to be like right here. The main hoop bar is going to be on an angle. So it's going to come up like this, across towards the camera, back down, and then to the number 1 bar right here. So I think it's going to be on this angle like this. And then the funny car cage stuff will be behind that area there. And then that should allow the X-brace to be nice and tight and a little bit shorter than it would be if the cage was very vertical, right? So if the main hoop's like this, these X-braces are going to be really, really long. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll lean it forward. That'll shorten the X-brace up. The center of the main hoop will be right here, which will kind of also tuck it out of the view. a little bit more. So your doors, you got to imagine your doors are covering up all this. So the main hoop's going to kind of go through the doors into this B-pillar. So hopefully from the perfect side view, you actually really won't see that main hoop. All you'll see is this funny car cage right here through the window. And I think that will look pretty dope. And that's going to be kind of my goal there, is to get that main hoop tucked up behind everything, keep it in front of the driver. Safety wise, I think that's a pretty good style too. A lot of the really fast front wheel drive guys have kind of switched to this forward facing main hoop with the funny car cage back. And I've seen some really bad high speed 170 mile an hour wrecks, and the cages are primo. And I think I like that style. I think it'll fit what I got going on with the seat so far back, and just the overall shape of the car. And then, so the funny car cage will be back there. Obviously, this thing's going to have a passenger seat at the bare minimum. All right. Off of that number 1 bar will be my 4 links to the rear end. And then off of the main hoop coming down, off of the main bar, there'll be the rear end structure too, that the anti-roll bars and the shocks will go to. And then that will come down into the trunk. In between the tires, it'll be real tight up to the bottom here, and then kind of come down into this area where there'll be a trailer hitch, parachute mount, stuff like that. And then really it'd just be like, this trunk well will be like almost all wheel tubs. And then hopefully I'll have my like 12 volt air compressor back here. I'll have my blow-by catch can will be back here. I'm probably going to run the tubes through the rockers for the blow-by. That's something some real trick builders like Tim Soldiers and some of those guys have been doing. So I'll probably do that. And then maybe the fuel cell. I don't even know where I'm going to put the fuel cell yet. Honestly, I need to start getting stuff into place because I need a big tank, and I don't even want to think of how I'm going to do the tank yet, to be honest with you. Off the number 1 bar, these lower bars will come up into and tie into the factory frame rails up here somewhere. So there's this triangular section right here that's all hardened steel structural that ties into the frame rail going up. So it'll probably tie in there somewhere. There'll be a hoop that goes from side to side, and that hoop will have mounts for this plate. So this plate will stay mounted in the car so that if I need to pull the trans, I can, and the engine will stay, or if I need to pull the engine, I can, and the trans will stay. So it'll be like a mid plate, be mounted in the car. There'll be a removable trans mount somewhere in this area. Be a double frame rail. So there'll be a big giant like center console essentially going all the way back. And that'll go from the top of that little hoop there to the top bar where the 4 links are. So the 4 links will go back off this number 1. And then there'll be like an upper bar in here somewhere that ties in. And then that double frame rail will go from there to there as well. And that also just kind of ties the whole chassis in. The book doesn't specify anything about double frame rails. It's kind of an addition on top of it. So this isn't the floor design I'm going to do. These books are kind of weird. They kind of just mix up floor designs with different style cages. It'll probably be closer to this one. My X-Brace will be a little bit shorter, but this 6C bar will be like the removable bar for like the trans mount and stuff. The overall like layout of this will be much different, but basically what you got there is your number 1 bar. I'll have side bars that go up to the rocker. I'll have these center 2 bars, and then kind of from this dash bar here to this upper bar back here will be where the double frame rails and the center console go. I won't have these little connecting bars, I don't think. I think these will be the actual 4-link plates that'll be boxed in. I believe that's a legal modification where I can get rid of those bars there. These number 18 bars. I believe those can be the 4-link plates. So I still got a lot of reading to do and double checking, but as far as I know, that's the case. Well, that's about 15 minutes of me just talking about the chassis. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I kind of hope that gives you a visual of what you're going to see start developing. Hopefully in the next few weeks, I can come up with some tubing. I'd like to get at least a couple sticks of 1 5/8, a stick a half, 1.5 inches, and I think a stick of 1 1/8 inches. And I think that will give me a good point to start getting some bars in. I got to buy a shoe for my tubing bender. I have shoes for 1 1/4 inches and under. I don't have one for 1 1/8 inches though, but I don't think any of the 1 1/8 bars need bent. I'll have to double check. But really what I think you're going to see video wise coming up soon is the removing the sheet metal, getting the tires back there, and starting on the axle. That's going to be super important for me to continue. And then from there, you'll see me come up with some tubing. You'll see me start putting the number 1 bar in, get the engine and trans in place, and whatever else I can do. Maybe get the windows out finally. Who knows? So, 2 days. Today's like Thursday or so. So probably Saturday you'll see, or Saturday, Sunday, you'll see another video. This will drop in the morning, Friday morning to come out. And I hope you guys are enjoying the journey. And I'm just kind of trucking on it, like I said, an hour or so a night, giving you guys updates. Take it easy.